On July 29th, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit released a published opinion in the case of Sylvia Gonzalez versus Edward Trevino, mayor of Castle Hills, that now appears to be headed to the U.S. Supreme Court. This is an important First Amendment retaliation case where qualified immunity is a key issue. Qualified immunity is the most important issue in the fight for the civil rights of the American people. It must be defeated, which is why you need to learn about cases like this, which the media will never tell you about. This case is being litigated by the Institute for Justice. They filed suit for the plaintiff, Sylvia Gonzalez, a retired resident, I believe 72 years old at the time, of Castle Hills, Texas, who decided to run for city council and became the first Hispanic councilwoman in Castle Hills history. I spoke with the Institute for Justice attorneys litigating this case, I think on the same day that this opinion dropped, and they seemed very optimistic about the future of this case at the Supreme Court. At Ms. Gonzalez's first council meeting, she accidentally took home with her a petition, which had been debated at that meeting. It was laying in her stack of paperwork. It was later discovered that the petition was in her possession, which, as it turns out, was technically a misdemeanor crime according to a detective in that city. So this petition that she accidentally took home with her sought to remove the city manager. So this town has fewer than 5,000 residents. During her campaign, she learned that many of the residents were unhappy with the performance of the city manager. So her first act in office, she submitted this petition to the council. And it was entirely unintentional that she ended up taking this petition home with her. She was supporting the petition and had no reason to suppress it or hide it. It was purely unintentional, and it was her first meeting as a councilwoman. Well, the city leadership was unhappy with Sylvia Gonzalez. After the mistake was discovered, the mayor, Edward Trevino, requested that a sergeant in the Castle Hills Police Department file a criminal complaint alleging that Gonzalez took the petition without consent. Well, this first officer, the sergeant, determined that no crime had been committed. Well, that was unacceptable to the city leadership, so they turned to this so-called special detective. The detective decided that Sylvia had in fact committed a violation of Texas Penal Code Section 37.10A3 and C1, which provides that a person commits an offense if he intentionally destroys, conceals, removes, or otherwise impairs the verity, legibility, or availability of a government record. Special Detective Alex Wright obtained a warrant, and listen to this, instead of using the typical procedure of obtaining a summons and going to the district attorney's office, he instead obtained an arrest warrant and hand-delivered it to the magistrate himself. The use of this process prevented Sylvia Gonzalez from using the satellite booking function of the Bexar County jail system, making her unable to avoid spending time in jail when arrested. So there's clear evidence here that this was done with a retaliatory motive in response to Sylvia Gonzalez's support of this petition to remove the city manager and to disturb their swamp status quo that they had going on. Sylvia's arrest enabled the city leadership to remove her from office, as well as to intimidate, punish, and silence her. And there was plenty of evidence of this. In fact, Sylvia was charged under a statute that has never been ever used before and never since to arrest someone in her position. And I believe the opinion noted that a review of the misdemeanor and felony data from Bexar County over the past decade makes it clear that the misdemeanor tampering statute had never been used in Bexar County to criminally charge someone for trying to steal a non-binding or expressive document such as this petition. Indeed, most indictments under this statute involved fake government IDs such as driver's licenses, social security numbers, and green cards. But here's the big problem for Sylvia Gonzalez. Technically, there was probable cause to charge her under this statute that was charged. So the question is, can law enforcement arrest and prosecute Sylvia in retaliation for her protected free speech so long as probable cause exists to do so? In other words, this is like a mayor ordering the arrest of a political opponent for some minor crime like jaywalking, where technically the crime may have been committed, but it never would have been prosecuted the person never would have been arrested at all, but for just being retaliated against for their free speech. This is the dispute, and there's a split in the federal circuits about this. So this comes from the 2018 U.S. Supreme Court case of Lozman versus City of Riviera Beach. And the court held that a municipality could be liable under a Monell claim, which is a pattern or practice claim, where its leadership decides to selectively prosecute a particular person in retaliation for their speech. Now, the federal circuits have differed on how broadly to interpret this holding. The Fifth Circuit, where this case is, in last week's opinion, has chosen a very narrow interpretation. So the jaywalking example is the ideal example, which was discussed in the opinion and in the Supreme Court opinion. If an individual who has been vocally complaining about police conduct is arrested for jaywalking, the claim should not be dismissed despite the existence of probable cause, because in such a case, probable cause does little to prove or disprove the causal connection between animus and injury. That was from the Supreme Court holding. The court concluded that no probable cause requirement should not apply when a plaintiff presents objective evidence that he was arrested when otherwise similarly situated individuals not engaged in the same sort of protected speech had not been. So basically their conclusion was that since no prior council person had ever been prosecuted by the city for taking a petition home with them, then there was no evidence to support a theory of selective prosecution. This is, of course, absurd. That's like saying that law enforcement may engage in retaliatory prosecutions so long as they choose a creative statute to charge the person under. The fact is that Sylvia Gonzalez engaged in highly protected First Amendment conduct, basically petitioning her government for accountability. And in response to that, government officials, really a conspiracy of government officials, took a material adverse action against her for the purposes of retaliation. Now, this is already prohibited under federal law. As the dissenting federal judge in this case noted, the police officers and city leadership have been on notice of a string of authority dating back all the way to 1689 that it's unconstitutional to jail people in response to their petitioning their government. Hopefully, the U.S. Supreme Court will overturn this. The Institute of Justice for Justice is doing some great work, not just in this case, but also in cases across the country. And they're also likely jumping into one of my cases. Fingers crossed, more on that in the very near future. Also, check out the YouTube video that the Institute for Justice did on this case. It is a fantastic video. This is a compelling story. And again, the media is not going to tell you about it. This is the fight for government accountability, for civil rights, the fight against qualified immunity right here. So they're collecting money. There's a donation link in the Institute for Justice's video on this case. And I urge you, if you want to help fund that fight, they need donations now, because now they have to take this to the U.S. Supreme Court. And maybe I can have them on if I start doing some live videos again, and they can tell us more about how they think that's going to go. So please donate if you want to help that fight. Now, I'll put all the case documents that I obtained on this Gonzalez case up on the website at thecivilrightslawyer.com. There's way more that you can read about it than I have time to discuss. So please check them out. I'll put the link to the blog post in the description. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.